Hello, everyone, and welcome in to Swarm Talk. It has been a while. It has been a long time. I hope you had a fantastic Christmas, and I hope you had, whatever you might be celebrating. Happy New Year as well. And look, ladies and gentlemen, we are live from downtown San Antonio, atop beautiful downtown San Antonio, where I will tell you right now, here's how I feel about the city of San Antonio. If you don't know, you're like, Bryce, why are you here? The All American Bowl, which is the top high school players in the country. They convene into the Alamo Dome. Awful venue, by the way. Just a cavernous building that is just way too big. And but anyways, San Antonio, the Riverwalk, cool little place. Got some great barbecue. Got to walk by the Alamo, and man, we had a great time. And I would love for you to join in, like the video, share the video, as we sit down for a little informal Saturday night conversation talking about Georgia Tech's defensive coordinator hiring situation. What is going on? There's a lot of panic from some of the fans. There's a reservation from some of the other fans sitting there saying, okay, it's okay. Waiting's a good thing. And I'm going to dive into kind of some of my thoughts on this. Is waiting to hire a defensive coordinator a bad thing? Is it a good thing? We're going to dive into this and maybe some of the reasons why. And I can't wait for you to be a part of it. Ralph's in the background. We say hello to Ralph. We say hello to Matt, Montega. Jonesy says he got that haircut. Jonesy is watching this live on a cruise ship somewhere in the, I'm guessing, in the Caribbean Sea. I don't know where Jonesy is enjoying himself. Rift Traveler says 1 minute late, not too bad. I appreciate you, Rift, for being, patient with us. And then Dr. Bob, happy Epiphany. All right, let's rock and roll. What is the latest on this situation? It's interesting. My ability to be able to cover LSU for 24/7 Sports and still cover Georgia Tech with the crowded booth. It kind of has allowed me to have two different glimpses into the differences of how programs handle this and how they want to go about hiring a defensive coordinator, how they want to go about, just the due process of it all. And so, look, if you're a Georgia Tech fan, I want to say this, and you see what LSU did. One, LSU's on a completely different monetary level than you. That's going to change a lot of things of how they're going to do things. But also LSU identified and knew who they wanted to get well before they knew they were going to, well before it came out that they were going to, let go of their defensive coaching staff. I will say this in the sense of Georgia Tech, and Ralph, you can put the first little banner up there for us. The question might be, why wait if you're Georgia Tech? Why would you want to, wait this thing out? Why would you want to kind of sit down and, just kind of, let other things happen, let the transfer portal happen, let other things happen. And I think tonight I'm going to paint the argument of both for and against here in a little bit of why it's okay. But, here's just some of my thoughts on why they wait. And this is pure speculation. One of the biggest reasons is that could this be someone from the NFL ranks that Brent Key wants to go after? That could be a possibility. Once again, not saying sources tell us this, not saying that, anything in particular. That could be something where there's a staffer on an NFL staff somewhere that Brinky has connections with, and that's who he wants to bring in. Oftentimes you're going to see NFL coaches not really change, especially if they're going to the college level, until after the conclusion of their season. Maybe they're, is whatever. But the wait for Georgia Tech, I will tell you this: there has been a lot of conversation among folks in social media platforms, in Discord group chats, and everything, and message boards about, well, does this mean that the hire has already been made? Because there is so little information out there, does it mean the hire has been made? I'm here to tell you, as of Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's the kind of latest update on the situation that I've been able to gather is there has not been a hire made. This isn't something, although it is going to be kept tight-lipped between Brent Key, between Jay Batt, and the few people that are going to be able to know about this. That's just how the GTAA wants to operate. It's just how, bottom line, that Brent Key wants to operate. You could say operate in silence. You could say all of those things. That's his process. That's what he goes about and what he does. And yes, Dr. Bob, you're exactly right. Anonymous Discord group chats and unspecified Discord group chats. So, yes, and like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. So, why the wait for Georgia Tech? It could be that there's a name in the NFL they want to. Obviously, some of the biggest names that they've been linked to, and the consistent three guys that we've, just seen and been able to heard and talking with some, people around the profession about, is a guy like Zach Arnett. It's a guy like DJ Durkin, and it's Santucci from, Duke. That's another one that I will tell you this: just because they hired Jess Simpson, I don't think that means that they're going to hire Santucci. If they do, that's great and that's awesome. I don't believe that that's necessarily a correlating factor in all of this. But the wait for Georgia Tech, it could be dependent on a lot of different things. I will just tell you, as of Tuesday, Wednesday, and maybe into Thursday morning, there is no indication that this hire has been made, that it has been approved by the Board of Regents in Georgia, that it has, essentially the ink is dry. They're just holding on to it. Now, we'll tell you this: do I expect this to still be kept quiet? Yes. Do I expect it when it happens, at the table of negotiations to not be leaked to the public? Yes, because it's exactly how Georgia Tech operates in every single thing that they do. And like Montega says, Key kind of did this with same thing with the Buster Faulkner hire. There were a lot of rumblings that Faulkner was going to be the guy. I will just tell you this, Montega, kind of to your point. I think this is going to be quieter in the sense of I don't think we're going to hear about this until in all factors it's about to be public. I think that's how quiet they're keeping this, because there were rumblings that Faulkner was going to be the guy, and in the days leading up to it, that he was the guy. At least from the sources' perspective, that wasn't made out there as public as it should have been. But look, that's how Key operates, and I'm gonna tell you right now, nobody knows. Like, when I tell you, and I'm not talking media, I'm talking media specifically. I'm talking everybody. Any tidbits, nuggets piece that you're reading or that you might be, looking at or anything like this is something where people have an idea. You have your hot boards that you're going to be, make across the industry. Football Scoop is going to, do their due diligence and what they want to do. But bottom line with this, nobody knows what's going on except for Brent Key and the select circle of people who have been, notified within that. So look, we'll get to this, Ralph. Let's go to the next section here, because this is the big part that I want to talk about. Is waiting to hire a good or bad thing? Okay, so let's have this conversation. We're relaxed here on a Saturday night. Maybe you cracked a cold one. Maybe you're enjoying a beverage of choice. Let's just talk about this. And so sit back and relax. Want to hear the comments. Want to hear your thoughts on this as well. The option of waiting, I strongly believe, and I've heard this argument on both sides of the conversation, both sides of the aisle per se, that you can really go about this in two or three different ways. And there's an argument for both of them that make a lot of sense. So let's take it. Is it a good thing? Okay. Waiting to hire. Someone just put I think it was Matt right there, put that comment. Ralph, you can put it up. It's talking about how this is a really big hire for Brent Key. Look, Brent Key's entering, year number 2. You've made strides to stabilize the program. And I'm going to pull the monitor down just a tad so I'm not covering up the comment. But you've made strides to stabilize the program. You got to a bowl game. You won a bowl game. And we're going to talk about a season review next week about, what I think it means for the future of the program. But in order to not keep it the status quo of 6 or 7 wins a year and to, one, set the floor, but also raise the ceiling of the program, Brent Key's, legacy as a Georgia Tech head football coach is really going to be tied to this, because you feel like you've gotten the offense to a place of, look, another offseason under Buster Faulkner, Haynes King theoretically should take a step up and be, I don't know, Ralph, if you're going to laugh at me in this, should be one of the guys that, the top quarterback in the ACC. Like, that's not a far-fetched, with the numbers that he put up this year. If he cuts down on the interceptions, and we'll talk about that, the numbers that he put up, they're among the nation's best. He and Jane Daniels had, the only two guys that did a statistical category that were similar in a lot of different ways. Here's where it sits for me, though, because Brent Key's the offensive identity feels like you've found it. Okay. So you feel like you have found an offensive identity that you can build on, that you can grow in, far from a finished product. You have to get better. You have to constantly keep evolving in that. But what Brent Key is going to be determined as is if this defense can be any good. Because if this offense is a top 30 offense in the country the next 2 or 3 years, but your defense stays, higher than 90th in the country, you're a 6-win, 7-win team at best. And you're going to depend on, tons of turnovers, which at times can be fun. And you're going to depend on, boneheaded coaching errors on the other side, which at times can be really fun. And we have a good time talking about it. But for the longevity of the program, it's not something that you really want to be counting on and basing your entire program's foundation upon. So when we talk about this, that's why this is so important. I think that's why a case of you're not going to see Brent Key rushed into the idea of hiring said coach. Are there some good names on the market that fit Georgia Tech in the financial scheme, in the scheme in general? Maybe they want to run. Of course. Like, I think, the 3 candidates that have been out there are guys that make sense for this program and make sense from a recruiting perspective, make sense from a schematic and X's and O's. But I think that's why it's a good reason to wait. This is a really, really important hire. Brent Key knows that. There's a lot at stake for Georgia Tech. And I've talked about this a lot, folks. There has never been in a more important time for Georgia Tech football than there is currently right now. To stay relevant, to stay with their head above water in whatever's going to be happening in the ACC, whatever's happening across college football. Like, every single year, every single game is an audition to the higher profile conferences that if we're going to do this super conference thing, you have to showcase why you think you can be a part of it. Georgia Tech, like I said, got to a foundational spot. Now you have to take the next jump, and that's why this hire is so important. So that's the good side of it. You're not going to see him rush into this decision to where he has to make a change next year or he has to make a change in 2025, because then you're talking about, well, where is the program in 2025 if the defense doesn't get any better? Yeah, we've got a top 30, top 25 offense in the country, but we don't have a, defense that can help them out. And, I'll tell you this, that's why I haven't been super critical either way. I think there's good dialogue to be had. But I think it's a good reason why you're waiting. Now, let's take a turn for the bad. Is there a bad reason? Well, the obvious one's recruiting. Who are these kids committing to? When you invite kids out of the portal, do they have an idea? If, and I think all sources have kind of indicated this, if there has not been a hire made, so if there's no hire made, there's no private dialogue happening between said, transfer, transfer guy coming into the program, visiting and saying, okay, what's the scheme? Like they don't know. You don't know. You could have an idea, and Brent Key can have an idea of, superlatives of what he wants the defense to look like. And every head coach has that. We want you to be tough. We want you to be nasty up front. We've got to get, really good protection, up front. But look, you've entered a situation where you don't have that. And so a lot is on your position coaches. We already know Andrew Thacker and Tillman. Thacker and Tillman are not with the program. They did not travel down to Tampa. They're not, currently they're in their roles. So where do you sit with this? Ricky Brumfield is currently, he coached the defensive backs during the bowl game. He's a guy that has experience with that. He has been in the room, with defensive backs all season long in those meetings. It's not something new to him. So I think that, and we're going to pause it here 1 second.
This is very unprofessional here, Bryce.
I'm sorry. Someone just entered the draft. Malik Neighbors declared for the draft. I had to, yeah, I know. It's a pre-write. Already had it done. So anyways, let's get back to this.
This is Georgia Tech, not LSU.
I know. I keep getting DMs from this guy on 24/7 that keeps asking me questions about it. But
yeah, well, he's right.
Yeah. Let me take a sip of the Coke Zero tonight.
Not sponsored.
Hashtag not an ad. But all right, let's talk here. So we talk about the bad and the recruiting of this aspect. Like, guys, I was at the All American Bowl and I was texting Ralph and Will about this. The amount of handlers, the amount of guys, that, agents, family members acting as agents, like, folks, you have to be crazy about recruiting to be on a college coaching staff. You have to have that to be successful. And so that's why I think a lot of people have been, very, very critical of the waiting game in hiring a defensive coordinator, because you don't have that to point to. You don't have, necessarily position coaches. You're going to rely on a guy like Ricky Brumfield, who, has a role in this, has a big role down in Louisiana in recruiting. But you're going to have, other names that are going to have to get involved. Aaron Joe, Kenyatta Watson. You have all of these guys that can get involved in this, but from a schematic standpoint. So kids are having to really commit to the school and the program, not the coaches, which happens, and that loyalty is there. But also, and it makes sense, kids want to know what we're going to be running. So I'm not saying that this is a situation where it's going to negatively affect. We're just painting both sides of the picture here for you. That can be one of the bad things, about waiting in this sense. So I will. I think I said in the middle. Like, I understand the disagreement and the arguments about, we have to get a guy in here. What are we waiting on? So and so's making their hires. Other people are making changes, which is going to inadvertently affect Georgia Tech, down the totem pole. Like, I'll tell you this, LSU goes and hires Blake Baker. Okay, maybe that doesn't necessarily hurt, Georgia Tech, but now it puts Missouri in a chance where they're now looking for a DC. Now maybe Missouri goes and gets a guy from somewhere, and that inadvertently affects. Like, there's a chain reaction to all of this. So, people might laugh when you say, well, Georgia Tech was never going to hire Blake Baker to begin with. And that's 110% true. Like, they weren't. But the thing is that farther down the rungs you get, there's different reaction. There's position coaches that might, have to switch jobs or switch roles that maybe, a said defensive coordinator that was going to come to Tech wanted to bring in. It all is intertwined and it all connects. And so, I just really think that this is something where you can see both sides of the argument. You can make a case for both sides of the argument. And, waiting to hire is, look, can be a smart decision. It can be calculated, or it can be bad. And I'll kind of end this part of the show with this. Like, no one's really going to know if this was a good decision or not to wait to hire until we see the body of work. There's going to be a lot of hot takes out there. There's going to be a lot of conversation of, was this the right hire whenever the hire's made apparent. I'll just tell you, like, we're not going to have a real, pulse on that until probably next December, when we've gone through another football season and we've either seen drastic changes for the better, or we've seen more of the status quo. But it's just going to be, very interesting to kind of watch. Ralph, I want you to make one more graphic as I pull up my shoehorn here. And I want you to make another little thing here. And we just talk about some of the thing, just say things we know about the coaching search. Let's do that. So there are some things we do know. We already talked about this, that this is not a situation where the hire has been made as of like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That hire has not been made. The interview processes are still obviously going on, in that maybe Coach Brinke has an idea of who he wants, and that can happen. Maybe this thing pops off tomorrow. Maybe, this thing pops off Sunday, Monday. I personally think this is something that you're going to see happen post national championship. I think that we'll get through the national championship, the end of the official college football season, and then we'll start to see some of those moves made. Another thing that we know, people have said, I just got another text message. A 4-star offensive lineman just shooting me. Hey, did you get any pictures? I'll send them to you a little bit later. No, you're not watching the show. That being said, so when we talk about things that we know about the coaching search, okay, we know that a hire has not been made as of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The question has also become, what's the deal with Kevin Scherer? Is Scherer a guy that is Scherer a guy that really even wants the DC role? And I'll just be honest with you, like I don't think he does. I don't think that he has a necessary interest in being that. I mean, this is a guy who has been a DC before. I think that he is really content at either staying as a linebackers coach or as an off the field kind of, analyst role. I think this is a guy who just loves football and it doesn't really have that. So I don't even see like the conversation of, is Kevin Sherrick candidate? I mean, that's something we kind of talked about from the beginning. Like, I never really thought that this was going to be a guy that was really going to be in the running. I didn't think he really even wanted it. And that's, all indications of like, I'll tell you this, like when I say nobody knows what's going on, I'm going to put, CKS in that Coach Kevin Scherer in that, part of this thing of like nobody knows what's going on. So those are kind of some of the things we know about this search. Look, Zach Arnett, his name has not even been talked about in any of the other, runnings for anything. So, bottom line with this search is it's still ongoing. It's one of those things that I think we could really truly see something pop off at any time. Well, you never know. We could get off this live stream right now and see it pop off. But I'll tell you this. What we know about this search is it's going to be kept quiet. It's going to be really, the cards are going to be held super close to the vest in as these guys, try to go about their business and do what they do. I'm really excited to kind of see where this goes in the sense of who the hire is and what his scheme is. And we're going to talk a lot about that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too. Like, what type of scheme do you want to see? I want to see an aggressive attacking style defense. Like that's really what I'd like to see. Creative, blitz packages. I think this is a conference where you can really, really do that. 2 years ago in the ACC, you had some really, really, really good quarterback, play. Now, you could make the argument of it's not as top heavy or really as elite that elite that you might think it is. And I don't know. I think that you could make some waves as a Georgia Tech team in 2024 with an average defense, and it'd be very, very interesting to see. Rift Traveler says, funny that the defense got twice as good under the guy not in the running. I wouldn't say the defense got twice as good under Kevin Scherer. I think it was a little bit better. But, it is what it is. So we'll have to see where this thing goes. It's going to be very, very interesting to see. This is a really important hire, folks. It's one of the more important hires. Key had to get the offensive side of the football right in year one. He did that. He found some guys that really make a lot of sense in recruiting and just establishing an identity. In year two, the defense has to be better. And there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. It's going to be really interesting to watch. But hey, we appreciate you tuning in. Just an impromptu kind of wanted to, put a pulse on this, what we're hearing, what were kind of the latest things with this. Even talk with some folks today that are in and around the coaching community and, are connected in that and just ask their thoughts on the situation. And they talked about, this is a massive hire. This is a guy that they have to bring in, and he has to make an impact. They really can't afford to take a step back if you're Georgia Tech in the eyes of what's happening around in college football. And so the pressure's on, and I think that's one of the big reasons why they've decided to kind of wait and really do their due diligence in this. Not going to be rushed into that. And there's something to say about that. People mentioned that's kind of how Brent Key went with, Buster Faulkner. And it so far through, 1 year, we saw how that helped Georgia Tech as a program. I think that we're also, hoping to see that happen in year two as a program under Georgia Tech. But it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of monitor this. And the best way for you to stay up to date with all the latest news is to head over to our social medias, all of their Twitter, Facebook, I guess it's X now, X, Facebook, and Instagram at The Crowded Booth. You can hang out with us over on, Discord. We have a great Discord chat right down there. Join the conversation. It's going to be very, very interesting to monitor with all the latest news, notes, tidbits. Head over to thecrowdedbooth.com for all of our episodes. And if you're just a first-time, listener or watcher on the show, we appreciate you. We're going to be doing, some more content. We got a lot of great college football content coming. Atlanta Braves podcast hosted by myself and Logan Whaley. We'd love for you to, check in with that as well. And as my man Matt down there says, make sure to hit that like button and make sure to subscribe. I'm going to end it with this. I'm going to say it for the fourth time. This is a massive hire for Brent Key and Georgia Tech in the future of the program. If you want to stay relevant, you got to make the right hire. You did it last year with Buster Faulkner. Can you do it in year 2 to not only set the foundation, the floor of this program, but to elevate and raise the ceiling of a Georgia Tech program that has a little buzz to it, no pun intended, for the first time in a long time? My name is Bryce Koon. He's Ralph Leary in the background. We appreciate you tuning in. We're going to be live tomorrow night, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, previewing the national title game. And then we'll probably be live on Monday night, recapping that game and talking with it as we end what has been a fantastic season with you all. And we can't wait to keep creating content everywhere and anywhere you can find us. We'll catch you next time here on Swarm Talk, brought to you by the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.